compartmentalize what's going on in my life. I'm able to compartmentalize, if I can use that word. And I don't have to allow you to destroy me. I don't have to allow you to cause me to be bitter. I don't have to allow you to anger me. I don't have to allow you to let me lose sleep at night. I don't have to allow you to take control of my life. If you take control of my life, it's not your fault. It's my fault. You're not in charge of my mind. God has given me a sound mind. And some of you need to start praying for a sound mind. 2 Corinthians 10:4-5 is another set of verses that came to me. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, they're not fleshly, but they're mighty through God, to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and against every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And I like what he says next. And bringing into captivity every thought. Bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. I take those thoughts, I incarcerate those thoughts, and I lay them at the feet of Jesus Christ. Peter said, casting all your care upon him, for he cared for you. Casting down. You know what those two words mean? It means to demolish. Casting down. Now, he says, I want you to cast down. I want you to demolish every imagination. That's what he says. What is an imagination? It's a computation. All right, what do you do on a computer? When you pull up that little calculator, you calculate. You computate. You reason. You think things through. I'm a thinker. Is that what you call that? Is that what you call that thing that you do that makes you walk around all the time in the blues? I'm analytical. No, you're killing yourself. You're destroying your life. I know I'm a young man, I'm 37. I have more life in one finger than some of you have in your whole entire body. And I'm a young man. You've been living a long time. I got more life in one moment with my sons and daughters than you have experienced in 20 years because you don't know how to think. You're always waiting for something to make you happy. There's this scenario that you have set up in your mind. And I can't be happy unless 5 things happen. These 5 things have to take place. I can almost be happy, but I can't be completely happy until I get the job, or until I get the car, or until I get married, or until I get divorced. Somebody shout amen. A lot of people think that. And so the Apostle Paul said all these reasoning. You're looking at the bills, and now I don't have the money, and you say, I'm a thinker, I think things through. Really what you're doing is setting yourself up for a catastrophe. Get a little pain in yourself. I'm going to tell you something here. You do what you want to do. Ain't no Bible against this. But I'm telling you right now, you get a little pain in your side, the first thing you do is Google search it. You're crazy. Lord Jesus, I got a pain in my right back side. What is that, Google? And you're like, I got cancer. No, actually, you just didn't sleep real good last night, and you just got a little pain over. You understand what I'm telling you? So you're walking around all day long Googling, you're on your cell phone, and you're trying to figure out how many different shades of cancer you got. And I got lupus now, and I got diabetes, and I got a bunion and on my side. I mean just on and on and on and on. And you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, I was sitting in the emergency room with my daughter. She broke her arm twice. I saw the x-ray. It really happened. And there was a little boy over there who was playing, and he fell, and he hit his head, and he had a little, what's that called? It sticks out. There's another word for it. It poked out, and Mama was so tore up. And the doctor came in, and he said, he's been playing all day? Mm-hmm. He's been swimming all day? Mm-hmm. All right, you need to go home. You're fine. But in her mind, the son had brain damage. Hey, and I'm not saying here today. He didn't have brain damage. He's a boy. He hit his head. Doctor said if that thing had went in, you got a problem. If he's throwing up all day, you got a problem. If he's talking out of his head, you got a problem. If it knocked him out, you got a problem. But no, you don't have a problem. So you can go home. No medicine, no nothing. But all day long, Mama thought maybe the boy was brain damaged. We laugh about that. We do it every single day. I really need to go somewhere. I can't wait to get there. He says here, he says, I want you to understand that our weapons are spiritual. That means I take them with me everywhere. I take them to work with me. I take them to the office with me. I take them to Walmart with me. I take them to the hospital with me. My weapons are spiritual. I don't need to carry them in my pocket. I don't need to carry them in a backpack. I don't need to load them. My weapons are not carnal. They're not fleshly. They are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds and casting down, demolishing reasoning. Now that's strange because I believe a person should be a thinker. I'm actually trying to tell you to think and to think properly. But here the Apostle Paul says we have the spiritual weapons and the spiritual fortitude to demolish computation. Some of you think so much, you forget to factor in God. I wish somebody would shout, God. This is what I almost did this, and I decided to do something a little different. I need 5 stories, just one at a time, spontaneous. I need some Sunday school stories about someone in the Bible who had adversity. Throw me out one, come on. Samson. Samson. Hold on just a second. Samson. I want to show you something. Samson, we think about Delilah. We think about the gates of Gaza. We think about Philistines. We think about all these people. Now, we've read the whole book. At any given point, Samson is in a battle. It's never about a gate. It's never about a harlot. It's never about Delilah. It's never about any of those things because we read the back of that story. At the end of it, he's got more victory than he had all of his life combined. It's not about how strong Samson is. Samson is just an ordinary man without God. The entire story of Samson, the entire attack of the enemy to take Samson out was always about his mind. Amen. Always. I think you're going to find this everywhere. Every place. Was the Philistines a problem for Samson? One man, one jawbone, one God slew 1,000. That's not normal. Do you think he was that bad? No. Now Samson would have died quickly. Those are soldiers. Those are warriors. Gates. Do you think a normal man can pick up several tons of gate and just carry them? Some scholars say miles. Gates are not a problem. Do you think that he didn't have the strength to avoid Delilah? I do. But the enemy wanted his mind. He wanted him to forget whose he was. And guess what Samson did? Samson forgot whose he was. Give me another one. Cain and Abel. I hadn't thought about that. So Cain is going to offer from the field. Abel is going to offer a lamb. I don't think God was displeased with his offering. All through the Word of God, all through the book of Leviticus, there was wave offerings, and there was a lot of different meal offerings. I don't think God's problem was with the offering. I think it was with the offerer. Now, Brother Stevie said it. The word, and we understand it. It's why I said Sunday school lessons. What was Cain's problem with Abel? He was jealous. He was jealous. It wasn't about offerings. It wasn't about who was better. It was about the mind. Do you understand that Cain killed his brother because of something that wasn't even true? God didn't love Abel more than Cain, but Cain's heart wasn't right with God. It was the offerer that was the problem. But Cain did not look at it in the proper mentality, okay? It's going to be this way every single time. I'm looking for something more like along the lines of a giant, something of that effect, something that was going to overcome some people, something like that. There's going to be mind battles in every single one. And in this situation, we have a slain brother because of jealousy in the mind. Isn't that ridiculous? So talk to me, saints. And really, it's going to be very easy to do this. Here's one that I'm going to have to throw out there. David and Goliath. Goliath is going to slay David. I don't care how many times David throws that rag and that rock. He's not that good. Now, this whole thing, you got Israel on one mountainside, and you got the Philistines on another mountainside, and you got this 10, 11, 12, 13 foot dude in the middle, whose armor and weapons weigh more than David. The Israelites, every time for 40 days, every time Goliath speaks and threatens God and denies God and curses the people of God, they all tremble and shake. A whole army. A whole army. And then here comes David. It's all a matter of the mind. Do you think Goliath is a problem? I mean, you read the whole story, right? What happens? David takes Goliath's sword and cuts his head off and holds his head up. So Goliath is not a problem, is it? Talk to me. Is Goliath a problem? Nope. But they thought he was. That whole army. And David said, where's he at? He, as he's running, he yells at the Goliath. He says, I'm going to feed your carcass to the birds. 16, 17-year-old boy. He said, I need your armor saw. I've not tested that. I got a rag and I got a rock. 5 of them. 5 smooth rocks. I'll make sure I get them all. Goliath is not a problem. But it is to you. You can't overcome Goliath. You can't get through Goliath. You can't get around Goliath because if you're thinking, but we know Goliath is not a problem. We read David's life and say, oh, David, well, man, just get out there and kill him. We read the story. It's a Sunday school story. But why are we so messed up with Goliath? It's all in your head. It's all in your head. Somebody throw me another one. 12 spies, that's very easy. The 10 that came back, they said, we can't take them, we're grasshoppers. In their sight, we're grasshoppers in our sight. Joshua and Caleb says, let's take them. Let's take them. We can do this. There's no problem. God has told us we can have them. Okay, is the Canaanites a problem? Are the giants of Anak a problem? The answer is no, because 40 years later, they're going to march in there. They don't know how to fight. They don't know how to do anything. And the reason I know this is because people who didn't know anything about fighting walked across the Red Sea, and the ground was dry, and the waters parted, and Pharaoh's army was swallowed up. I'm telling you, God took out a whole army. They're going to take the land of Canaan. The giants are not a problem. Canaan is not a problem. What is the problem? What's the problem? It's always there. Every story I've thought about today, every one of them, Moses, I can't go. Why? Because I'm slow of speech. You lie, son. God said, I'll be in your mouth. I'll speak for you. Send somebody else. And the Bible said God got angry with him. Was Egypt and Pharaoh a problem for Moses? No, it wasn't. Crippled them with nothing but a stick. Because God was going before them. Hebrew boys in a fiery furnace. Is a fiery furnace a problem for Christians? Talk to me. Is a fiery furnace a problem for God's people? Well, now you're telling me no. But yeah, we run around all the time thinking about fiery furnaces all the time. We know for an absolute certainty that if I'm going to be thrown in a fiery furnace and it's not God's will for me to die, I'm going to dance with Jesus in the middle of a flame and I'm going to be free as free can be. Amen. Is a den of lions anything for a man of God? No. Come on, is it? No. Now what would have happened if the Hebrew boys, Daniel, any of these people, Job? I mean, Job, everything was thrown at him. What if Job had shook his fist in the face of God? What if the Hebrew boys had said, I've served God my whole life, and now he's failed me? Do you think the story would have read the same as it does now? No. What do you think would have happened to Daniel if Daniel had said, I've served God my whole life? I've done everything you told me, but now God has forsaken me. this. It's never about the lions. You don't have to fear lions. It's never about giants. You don't have to fear giants. It's not about fiery furnaces. You don't have to fear fiery furnaces. It's not about cancer. It's not about diabetes. It's not about jobs. It's not about family. It's not about this. It's not about that. It's about your mind. God's people can do anything. We can overcome anything. We can go through anything. It's not about the wall. It's not about the troop. David said, by my God, I've leaped over walls. I've run through troops. I can do all things in Christ that strengthens me. It was never about the Red Sea. The Red Sea apart. It was never about Pharaoh's army. Pharaoh's army's going to drown. It's always been about your mind. Always. My God. Romans 4:23, and he that doubteth is damned because he that eateth, he eateth not of faith. For whatsoever is not of faith is sin. Hebrews 11:6, without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. To come to him, two things have to happen. You have to have faith that he exists. And number two, you've got to believe that he's going to take care of you. We don't believe it. We don't believe this. I hear somebody saying, I do. I've seen every person in this house at one time crying and fretting and worrying and wondering how I'm going to get through it. I've seen everybody in this house do it one time or another. Ain't nobody on it. And if you believe that, then you're deceiving yourself. Every person in this house at some time or another has wavered somewhere, somehow, some way. And I'm telling you, we don't have to ever do it again. Ever. Don't know what I'm going to do. Don't know how I'm going to get through this. I'll tell you how. You're going to trust God and you're going to walk right through this thing, because it was never about the bills. It was never about the money. The enemy doesn't want you to be powerful in God, and so he's trying to take your mind. Singers won't sing, because if I sing, nobody's going to listen. Singers won't sing powerfully, because if I sing powerfully, they're not going to respond. It's all about the mind. If God has called you to preach, preach. It's going to be powerful. If God has called you to sing, sing. It's going to be glorious. Brother, is this on up here? It's not about any of that. Never was. It's about your mind. Are y'all getting this tonight? I'm not going to quit until you get it. And if I have to go 2 hours, I will. And if it makes you mad, I'm sorry. I believe that he is. I believe that he is. I believe that he is. Do you believe that he is tonight? Do you believe that he is a rewarder to them that diligently seek him? It never was about the problem. It never was about Richmond. People said God's waiting for lamb. God wasn't waiting for lamb. We couldn't get the timing right. All these preachers in the past, I'm not talking about any that's here. I'm talking about those that I know personally that have said, man, the Lord is really laying it on my heart to go to Richmond. And then they never go. Why? Because there's false doctrine in Madison County. Lots of false doctrine in Madison County. They say, well, I don't understand all that stuff they do. And so on and on and on and on. It never was about the false doctrine. It never was about none of that ever really mattered. It mattered about the mind. Can God take a city? Can God save the lost? Can God heal the sick? The answer is yes. The question is, can he find a conduit to move through? Can he find somebody that will allow him to speak through them? Amen. Every attack we face, every single attack you face from the enemy, it is a battle for your faith that we believe with our minds. Everything you're going through right now, you are so focused on the stuff around you, you don't even have a clue, some of you. You're just fighting and say, well, after this battle's over, I'll get the victory. It was never about the battle. You can have victory in the middle of the most terrible situation situation in your life. It never was about the war. Let me give you a little bit of information. You joined an army. I said you joined a fighting machine. Of course, you're going to have bloody knuckles. Of course, you're going to have bloody elbows, and your fingernails are going to be all ripped off when you scraping and scratching and climbing mountains and pulling the trigger. But the enemy does not have to take your mind. Hear me, Holy Ghost. I heard a story today. It shocked me, but it makes sense to me. A mother dog got ran over by a car and broke her back, and she couldn't move her bottom legs. So she just pulled herself, dragged herself with her two front legs everywhere she went. And that mother, she had a litter of puppies. And it just kind of messes with my head a little bit because I see it so much in the church. And them little puppies, every one of them were perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Their legs were strong, their backs were strong. But when them little puppies started trying to walk, you know what they did? They pulled themselves. Just scratch like this, because that's the only thing they'd ever see. That's all they knew. Their mama walked like that, and so they was trying to walk like that. I see a lot of y'all limping in here, pulling yourself in here. You do more damage to yourself than the enemy ever thought about doing to you. You do more damage to yourself than anything anybody ever said to you ever did to you. You take what they said one thing, and you manipulate that into your mind, where it becomes a part of who you are. And now you can't have victory. Now you can't have power. Now you can't have glory. Not because of what they did, but because you won't learn how to think properly. God help us tonight. I've told you this, and Brother Jeff Osmond, he trains horses. I did a little study on this, make sure it's accurate. They can take a horse, a big, powerful, strong horse. They take the reins, they drive a stake down to the ground. They'll pull that horse's head down and tie it around that stake and leave that horse there. I don't know how long the process lasts, but eventually that horse becomes what they call ground tied. What's that mean? That means that the person, the man that's just pulling and stringing along the horse, he can just drop the reins and the horse drops his head and he might as well be tied down. He's not tied down. He can stand up and take off anytime he wants to. I read that they could possibly do that to an elephant. Do you understand what an elephant could do to this church? If you were to hook an elephant up against some of these walls, an elephant could pull the wall right out of this church. But you can ground tie an elephant. And that's exactly what we have at Revival Tabernacle. We've got powerful people that can do anything. They can go anywhere. They can achieve the impossible. But instead their heads are down because the devil dropped your reins and you've never learned to think a little bit differently than your mama did and your uncle did. Somewhere, somehow, you gotta learn to think that, my God. There's a battle on for your mind tonight. You know, Jesus said, he answered him, he said, the first of all the commandments is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. That is the first commandment. You cannot say you're loving God with all of your mind when all you think about is all the other junk. You have to insert God. You have to go get God. You have to shake yourself and remember to implant God in the middle of your thinking. If you don't, you'll be walking around your whole life. You know, I probably could get it real tight right here. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be really nice. But I'm a little frustrated because there's people in this house giving me giant slayers. But instead, they've joined the crowd up on the mountainside. And their knees are trembling. He's a giant. So what? Who cares? Giant slayers. All on them. Any one of those men, if they had stepped out, any single one of those men, if they had stepped out and said, you come to me with the Spirit of the Lord, I'll come with you in the name of the Lord. Come on with it. Let's see what you got. And threw a stick at him. And just knocked him. I believe they could have probably spit. They don't know what they spit. Just spit. It wasn't about rocks, and it wasn't about giants, and it wasn't about rags, and it wasn't about anything. It was about God. It was about God. It's always about God. 10 of those spies saw God through the Canaanite giants. 2 of them saw the Canaanite giants through God. 2 of them said, let's take them. Because their minds were screwed on right. They had their heads screwed on right the way it's it's supposed to be. Are you with me tonight? You need to get this, because I've known some of you for 2.5 years, and for 2.5 years you have done nothing but waller in the thoughts of depression, and everything is bad. Murphy's Law is tattooed on your forehead. I don't know what Murphy's Law is. Probably a good thing. If it's bad and it can happen, it's going to happen. That's Murphy's Law. Everything bad. Everything bad. I mean, really. Nothing good happened to you today. I breathe there. I exhale. That's pretty good. My heart's still pumping. That's pretty good. I got clothes. I got food. I got a house. I got a car. That's pretty good. I got a wife. I love man. I got children. Some of y'all don't have no wife, but you got grandchildren that love. There's always something. It saddens me to think that not all of you are going to get this. I'm tired of just sitting. I'm tired of you just sitting. You're made to do so much more. I don't want to be 75, 80 years old and have spent the last 50 years trying to sort through what people said about me. It's just a bill, man. You want to know what a daddy's broken heart looks like? I got an x-ray in there. It's when your daughter breaks her arm twice. You know what? It's just an arm, you know. And I love her, and it hurt my feelings. You know what's going to happen? It's going to heal. She's going to live. Now, why am I going to run around all depressed about that? Talk to me. We see times we had no money. And we'll actually see that a lot. No money, no funny. That's my saying. I need to coin that. No money, no funny. So what in the world good does it do to run around looking at your bank account all the time and say, I got 37 cents. So what? You got 37 cents. Then the thing you can do, but if you're not working, go get a job. I like that. There's a place you can go when you're broke. It's called JOB. Go to work. But if you're working, you're doing your best, you're paying your bills, you got no money, what are you going to do about it? You got 2 cars, sell one of them. Do what you can. Eventually, you got to go to bed, saints. Eventually, you got to trust in God. Eventually, you got to lay stuff in the hands of God and let Him take care of it for you. I thought that's what we were supposed to do as Christians. But listen to me now, Romans 12:1, I want to try to close. I want to lose some of you. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And I like this verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. You hear me? Oh, I feel so good and y'all don't. But it's all right. I'm just going to get on through this. God didn't call me to come here and tickle your ears. And I know I could probably preach on white tennis shoes, and some of y'all dancing, boy, he shucked it down tonight. You don't even know what shucking is. If I was to shuck this house down, I'll tell you what it'd be, but we'd all have to go back to God and myself included. Shuck it down. I don't know what shucking it down is. We run around with doubt. I'm a Christian, and we fall apart over anything. We're supposed to be powerful. What's up, Goliath? Bring him on. Let me have some. Come on, get down here, Big Daddy. Let's see what you got. That's the way we should be all the time. Wow, come on with it. That's the way it ought to be. Walk up to a doctor's statement and say, listen, I don't like this. I might cry for 10 minutes, but sooner or later I'm going to hold that thing up to God and say it is what it is. And I got to call it. What am I going to do about it? I'm just going to let God have it. If it's His will, I accept it. If it's not, I'm going to dance in the middle of this furnace despite the thing. Okay, here's the problem. He says, be not conformed to this world. Be not twisted and molded and moved to this world. That's got a lot of implications, obviously. It means to not be conformed to the spirit of the world, to the fads and fashions of the world. We understand that. But it means a lot more than that. The cares of this life. Be not conformed to the world as a system, not allowing bills bills and jobs and people and things and clothes and all these things that we fight with, they form us, conform us, they push us and mold us and bend us. And before you know it, every part of our life, every part of our being, it's just merely to survive the world in which we live in. It's not God's will in your life. The problems that you're facing should not conform you. They should not form you. Some of you are a product of your family. Some of you are a product of the past churches. You can't even worship in this church because you were so well formed in the churches before this one. Oh, he ain't moving. Listen, God, I'm not raising my hand unless the Spirit moves. He ain't going to move you. He ain't moving you. He ain't touching you because your heart's so hardened. I don't know about all these. Come on now. I'm going to back up a little bit. I don't want to sound too harsh here. I'm telling you, we have allowed everything in the Word to conform us except God in His Bible. And you know what's really, really hard? It's when you walk around 20 years, demented. I mean, really, I don't know how to contort myself. But when everybody in your house is contorted the same way, guess what that becomes? It becomes normal. Just chew on that for a little while. In our churches where I come from, everybody thinks the same. Everybody talks the same. Everybody looks the same. Everybody goes the same places, don't go the same places, wear the same thing, don't wear the same thing. They're afraid to think about anything. They're afraid of any new concept. Everybody's twisted the same way. And because everybody looks exactly the same, they say, this is normal right here. And somebody straight walks up and says, what you all hunched over like that for? And they're like, did you see him? There's something wrong with him. And I'm going to tell you what's the most painful thing I've ever had to do in my life. Somebody walked up to me and said, what's wrong with you, man? And I was like, what's wrong with you?